turned them on.
So she's new. Leave her alone.
All right, go easy on me tonight, please.
Karen, I want to thank you for this.
Oh, you're
This is
welcome.
great. Yeah.
You're welcome.
I most certainly do not. I'm actually taking the vote to eliminate those.
That's boy.
Is this microphone?
I'm sending you back to Reinhardt.
Microphone.
Reinhardt's teaching up at Notre Dame now.
I heard that.
Is he?
I just
Oh,
heard
I'm
that.
stopping
I heard,
Sam.
I heard that about a month
Don't forget
ago.
to turn it on.
Forget to use your
Yes.
I told him he was retired. I
He
told him.
said, listen, my wife is going to kill me.
No.
I know it. I knew it. You gotta find something to do.
I'd like to call this stated session of City Council order. Please rise for the invocation followed by the pledge of flag. Tonight we ask for your wisdom as we make decisions in this meeting that will help our residents. Help us carefully consider the relevant information that has been gathered and help us evaluate that wisely with our options, considering the pros and the cons of every decision we make. Help us to be unified in making the best possible decisions for our residents and to effectively carry them out. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr. Pintabone?
Here.
Mrs. Rose?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles?
Here.
Mrs. Sultana?
Here.
Mayor Panto?
Here. Moving on to the next item.
Approval of the agenda?
We'll look for the approval of the agenda.
Motion.
A motion? We have a motion from Pinnabone,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Ruggles. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda? All those in favor, I'm sorry, roll call?
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Pintabone?
Aye.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And our action on our minutes of our January 10th meeting,
Move.
moved by
Second.
Mr. Brown, seconded by Councilman Pinnabone. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Roll, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Pinnabone?
Yes.
Mrs. Rose?
Yes.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye. At this time, before we get into our public comment, we do have a presentation, Ian, if you want to come up, by our Environmental Advisory Council. And you can introduce the other members that are here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Ian Kindle. I am the chair of the Easton Environmental Advisory Council. We also have Nick Gorski, who is our vice chair, and Tony Claypatch, who is an associate member of the EAC. So we're here tonight to present you with our 2023 accomplishments report. I believe you have a printed copy before you. So the Easton EAC has 7 seated members. We have just added associate members via our new bylaws that we enacted this year. Our organization was established by ordinance of the city in 2008, so this is about our 15th year of serving the city. We advise you, the mayor, city council, planning commission, and all the city departments. We make recommendations on ordinances, zoning, planning, development, and other things that we feel would benefit Easton's environment. Some of our past projects include 3rd Street Corridor walkability study, recommendations to the comprehensive plan of Easton, amendments to the city's street tree list to encourage more native species, a solar ordinance, and native and invasive plant ordinance recommendations. So, in 2023, we had one big issue with our concerns about the clear cutting on the Lafayette Hillside in relationship to the new construction of the accessible trail. So we basically ended up capturing some drone footage, counting up how many trees had been removed, and then worked with presented a letter to City Council and to the city and to Lafayette to let them know our concerns about erosion and other issues that were not followed according to our steep slope ordinance. So, of course, the site looks a lot better than that now, and we're still following up with this college to make sure that good steep slope plantings take place to hold all that soil in place, and hopefully we'll get some more shrubs. Also, 90 trees were replaced around the city, not on this site, but some on Lafayette College campus, some in Scott Park, as kind of a recompense for this situation. We are currently undertaking a green spaces inventory. We volunteered with We Can Serve Pennsylvania. They're the organization that kind of gathers all EACs in the state together and tries to kind of coordinate their actions and activities. So we volunteered to undertake a GIS mapping project with them so that we can kind of try out some GIS techniques and then pass that knowledge on to other EACs that might want to do similar projects. So right now, this is an online survey that our members and volunteers can take to highlight places in and around the city that might benefit from greening or stormwater projects, things that we think could be environmentally beneficial. We feel that while we do have a very solid parks project, some of the areas that might be in private or public ownership might get a little bit looked over. So we're trying to just kind of get a hold on what possibilities there are for greening infrastructure in the city. The wall side here is kind of on Bushkill Drive by the Chamois Shine Car Wash. I just included that as an example of a place that isn't really doing much environmentally and might benefit from pollinator planting, stormwater management, or other infrastructure. We have been working on teaching folks about the Easton Climate Action Plan. Some of our focuses have involved composting, transportation, and community gardens. So one initiative that we were undertaking this summer was a community bus ride to ice cream. We didn't end up getting to coordinate this with Lanta. We'd like to move into doing this next year. Just a positive engagement to let people know that it's easy to take the bus to do regular city services. And ridership on Lanta is one issue that is preventing the system from growing to its best capacity to serve area residents. So we'd like to encourage more public transit ridership, both for climate reasons and just for good public services. And then this list to the side here was one of our visioning meetings, and I just put it up there to show some of the things we're thinking about related to climate and other issues. So we had a really good year with recruitment. We filled all our EAC seats, and we even had an alternate member appointed in June. So then we've lost a few. We still need to fill a dedicated seat for the Easton Area Planning Commission. So we're hoping to do that in 2024. And we did draft amended bylaws that enabled us to make better use of our volunteers, give them positions that really were more meaningful, and enable them to serve on committees under the EAC. We did a lot of community events and education. This is just two of those. One was a trash cleanup in conjunction with Earth Day at Hackett Park along the stream corridor there, and another was up on Smith Avenue hillside, and we had a group of Lafayette College students come and help us out with that undertaking. We have recently been nominated to become the Climate Action Plan Task Force. Before that, another group of residents and volunteers had been convening. It didn't really take off, so Dave Hopkins and Nurture Nature Center asked that the EAC kind of take on the duty of being the Climate Action Plan Task Force. So we accepted that in December, and we had our first formational meeting in January. And the Climate Action Plan Create Connections project is a new initiative of Nurture Nature Center, where we'll be working with Bethlehem and some of the other surrounding municipalities that have climate action plans to help educate about them and to kind of raise awareness and get everyone moving in an environmentally sustainable direction. Some of our 2024 priorities, we'd like to support the adoption of a climate adaptation plan that's going to come before council in a couple of meetings in February. Basically, climate adaptation thinks about the fact that no matter how good we do on reducing greenhouse gases, we're still going to have downstream impacts of a warming planet and in greater environmental catastrophes. So adaptation helps us move our services towards being able to deal with those issues. So that will become a supplement, if adopted, will become a supplement to the climate action plan. We'd also support the adoption of science-based carbon reduction goals. That would be net zero by 2050. Basically, the Global Covenant of Mayors and the Carbon Disclosure Project, who is managing the city's rating based on how we're working on our climate action plan, strongly advocates for those goals countrywide. And if we can bring ourselves into alignment with them, it will vastly improve the scoring that we're receiving from those organizations based on our implementation of climate planning. We'd also like to complete the green spaces inventory for the whole city, have closer relations with city council, more communication with city departments, planning commission, and city staff, and engage a new planning commission member, as I mentioned. We also like to work closely with Rob Christopher, the city's conservation manager, and the Public Works Department. We're looking at helping out with a rehab of Sullivan Park wetlands, which have become overgrown in the years since they have been established, so they'll serve the environment better if they're cleaned up a little bit. And then we're also working with the conservation manager on planning for the $1 million USDA urban forestry grant that the city got, and hoping to engage some more citizen action based on that funding. So I thank you very much for your time this evening, and if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to take them. Otherwise, I'll let you proceed.
Go ahead, Dr. Ruggles. I just have a thing you might want to pay attention to. I was walking along the trail, kind of right below where the ramp comes down from Lafayette, right in that section.
Yep.
And I noticed that since the dam was removed, there has been some bank erosion because of the increased velocity there. And I have some concerns that the road is pretty close to the stream. There are buildings that are pretty close to the stream, and that erosion could be not a good thing. And even if you go out into, I guess it's Palmer Township, out on the trail out further where they removed the dam there, you can see in the upstream side big erosion on both sides. Now that dam had been removed real previously. But
I know some of that can come from the reestablishment of the stream corridor, since they have been impacted by those dams. But I would love to take a look.
It's nothing that's catastrophic immediately, but as velocities in the stream increase, because you don't have that, if you will, reservoir there, it's going to impact the banks, and so I think it's something that we really do need to keep our eye on.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ian?
All right.
Ian, I want to thank you for your work on the Environmental Advisory Council. I'll get to work on getting, when we met, I'll get to work on getting somebody appointed by the Planning Commission to be a member and also fill that vacancy. I was wondering, the City Council adopted the goals. We have a reduction of by 2030 of what, 50%? 30% by 2030 and 80 by 2050. So if we may have to change that if you're recommending net zero by 2050.
I think that would require an action of council to amend the climate action plan in order to adopt those targets.
Yeah, because in the climate action plan, it has 80%. So, but it's great. I'm glad you're working with Nurture Nature. They've been very helpful in our climate action plan. As I will stay in the state of the city, one of our goals in the next 4 years is to get that started, because 2030 is coming very quickly.
another thing, the police department has committed to go to, hybrid vehicles, which, if you believe the literature that Ford puts out, will actually reduce our CO2 emissions by millions of pounds. And will also save the city a lot of money because we're not burning as much gas. But I think that's a good step. And the police department just bought an all-electric van.
Excellent. Yeah, and we need to track those numbers as we do carbon monitoring to report out for our scores on all of these metrics. So thank you.
Absolutely. Again, thank you, Ian. Anybody else from the public like to address City Council on agenda items only? Go ahead, Tom.
May I have the spelling of your first and last name and your address?
Yep, it's Tony Claypatch, Tony, and Klapatch. And my address is 1974 Mercer Way, Easton, PA 18040. I just got a quick question on bill number 1 regarding amending parking garage fees. The pending legislation document on the city's website said it's amended to read as per attached Exhibit A. However, there's no attached document. So I'm not sure what is actually getting amended in this bill.
I can read it for you.
It was
It was to read.
it did a $1 parking fee,
Right.
and there's a typo there, but there's a $1 parking fee from I forget the dates, but in the winter months, and then it goes up to $3 an hour.
Yep.
In the summer months.
We're lowering it to $1 during the what we call the off season, not the Creola season.
This is at 5 a.m. to 5 p.m.
No,
now?
that's the one that's 50 cents an hour.
Well, 5
that-
a.m. to 5 p.m. is $3 an hour right now. During
No,
the day.
Right now it's $3 a
Yeah.
year. 5p to 5a is
Right.
So it's gonna-
5a to 5p.
So it's going to go from 50 cents to $1 an hour?
No, it's going to go from $3 to $1 during the day,
Okay.
and after
the day.
5 o'clock it'll go to 50 cents.
All right, thanks.
No problem.
Mayor, I have a question for Tony. When are you going to move to Easton?
I used to live down here on 3rd Street.
I know, I'm waiting for you. You're never in Forks. You should come back. We'd love to have you back.
Maybe one day.
Anyone else like to address City Council? Artie?
Excuse me, Artie,
Name and address.
your name
Name and
and
address.
address. Thank you.
Oh, that comes every year. I mean, every.
The list is
The list?
in the
Packet.
resolution.
They don't get it.
Oh, you don't get the resolution?
No.
It's parking tickets, a whole variety of things that are basically out of date. Councilwoman Savannah asked me about it previously, so, but, you know, there's stuff that is beyond statute of limitations. There's stuff in there that is just, no longer required to be kept. This is Pennsylvania guidelines as to, you know, what we can keep and how long we
Yep.
need to keep that
Retention time.
particular stuff in the police department. All of these things are beyond those deadlines the state has established.
Anyone else like to address City Council on agenda items only? Seeing none, we'll move on, Madam Clerk.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I got 2 emails, people online watching saying the sound quality is terrible. and
Well,
they
use
can
your
hardly hear.
microphone,
They didn't say about me. I'm not the one talking.
because he always he puts it up. Look at, see, it's up again.
Yeah, but they're not talking about me. I haven't said anything.
Probably the presentation, yeah. There's no reports received by council, so we'll move right into committee reports. Councilman Brown, Finance.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have one thing
Excuse
this
me.
evening.
The
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda?
Excuse me?
Consent agenda.
Oh, the consent agenda, we didn't, yeah. Consent agenda, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. We have 8 resolutions for approval. COA for 400 Northampton Street, a COA, Certificate of Appropriateness, for 123 South 3rd Street, a COA for 101 South 3rd Street, resolution for the destruction of police records, the appointment of LaDrew Gary Davis as the Commissioner of Softball, and the appointment of City Clerk position, Codes and Planning Supervisor, new job description, and salary and wage for the Codes and Planning Supervisor.
How can we vote on the planning, or the wage and salary before we vote on the position? Isn't that later in the agenda?
Yeah.
So I would ask that be removed from the consent agenda. We'll put it under new business after we approve the position. Dr. Ruggles.
I just had one question, and maybe nobody in this room knows the answer, but the thing that stuck out to me on their case number 2401 for the, from the Historic District Commission, is that they're removing a fire escape. That just seems odd to me, that you remove a fire escape.
I don't
I mean,
know.
historically, I guess that's not a big deal, but I just think that says existing fire escape will be removed.
I am sure that the code department has looked at it and approved the plans, but I'm not positive. Obviously, I wasn't at the meeting of the Historic District Commission.
That's on 400 Northampton.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I have to put one in because they're making it, that's apartments there. There's apartments on that building.
It says removal.
I know.
Yeah, the removal doesn't mean that the plans don't include installing something new.
Yeah, but if it's visible on the outside, I mean, maybe it's an interior one. I don't know that they're putting in, but if it's visible on the outside, that would have to be approved by Historic District Commission. So
Yeah, I mean.
I don't want to hold anything up. But it just
I'm
seems
just-
odd to me that they're removing a fire escape.
Yeah, and I can't imagine any way that they're gonna keep a certificate of occupancy for the building unless they have an appropriate exit route, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're building perhaps a separate fire, what do you call it, when they have the stairways outside, that's enclosed, maybe they're adding that as part of their overall construction, which makes some sense, 'cause
I just thought somebody might know, but it just stuck out as being odd. So we can go on.
Okay, roll call.
Get a motion?
1 second. Okay, Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone,
Aye.
Mrs. Rose. Aye. Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Ms. Sultana.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on. Anything else, Mr. Brown?
No, I have one thing coming up on
Go
the
ahead.
agenda.
Mr. Pinnabone, Economic Development Committee.
Nope, I have one
Oh.
thing here. Bill number 2, we're gonna be amending 2023 budget for the health care, for 2023. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Pinnabone, Economic Development.
Mayor, we have a couple of grants that we were awarded that I'm going to mention. We got a grant from Northampton County Affordable Housing for 2 affordable owner-occupied units for $40,000 on South Side, West Cooper, and Cole Streets. Another one from Pennsylvania Environmental Commission Water Trails mini grants for $2,473 to buy trash cans, dog waste cans, and install signage as part of the park renovations. Another one from Northampton County Hotel Tax, which is going to go to the Space Fest for $18,000 to support that festival. And finally, we had a grant from Greenways Trails and Recreation Program, Two Rivers Riverfront Planning, to generate plans for waterfront improvements from 22 south along Lehigh Drive, which you were mentioning today. That's $50,000 grant. So that was approved as well. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Any questions for the Economic Development Committee? Moving on to Ms. Rose, the Planning and Codes Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. Last Friday, I met with Stephen Narowski, the Director of Planning and Codes. He was able to give me quite a bit of background and resources for my role. I really appreciated his time, and I'm planning to continue these meetings with the eventual new director, working with the Planning and Codes team. I also attended 2 Lehigh Valley Planning Commission events. One was on January 11th. I participated in their virtual meeting that focused on increasing equitable access to planning in the Lehigh Valley. And on an in-person meeting on January 17th, a Lehigh Valley workshop focusing on the Priority Climate Action Plan for Transportation Decarbonization. That's all I have.
Very good, thank you. Dr. Ruggles, Public Safety Committee.
Thank you. Just wanted to say that we did have a committee meeting last night, and we were discussing different ways in which we could enhance safety in the city. We'll be forming, or have formed, 2 subcommittees that are going to look at the city's response in disasters for one, and the second one would be taking a look at just what particular items we can maybe address that will enhance our safety here in the city. There are many reports that are out there that have been done by one that I saw from Brookings Institute. Federal government has done several that look at how communities can enhance their safety, and they have specific things that they state. And what we're going to do is take a look at those and see which ones basically apply or could apply to the city here. So we're going to be taking a look at that in the next few months. Other than that, that's. Are you going to say about the New England or the hydro visit? Or
I thought we were supposed to keep quiet. Okay. Well, you could say that we met. That's not private. I mean, we met.
Yeah. I just want to say that we did. The mayor and Lewis and myself met with a representative from the state who's taking a look at potential hydroelectric facilities here in the city of Easton, or near the city of Easton, I should say.
Okie doke. Yes, I was not going to say the New England Hydro Project was what on the Humor Park Canal is what precipitated that meeting. And the gentleman from the governor's office, Brian, was very, very knowledgeable, and we learned a lot. I learned more about New England Hydro that day than I did at all of our meetings with them. I'm just saying.
Over several years.
Yeah. Councilman Endiger, Public Works.
I have no report tonight, Mayor. I do, however, have a resolution later on with Pannoni for design work.
Okay. Administration Committee, Councilmember Sultana.
Yes, Mayor. At last night's meeting, Mr. Campos discussed adding a new position for the Department of Codes and Planning. The new position will provide additional managerial support to the department and directly support the director. And also, this position does not require a budget amendment. That's all I have.
Report of the mayor. I just want to mention a number of things.
Mayor, I have to give my no report first.
No, go ahead, Mr. Shear. You're usually after me. I don't know why all of a sudden you're ahead of me. Why are you ahead of the mayor?
No, I usually am.
You are usually after me.
Power of the pen.
Oh, that's what you are.
Yeah.
Reporter solicitor,
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Shear.
If I said I have no report, it would be like, why did I bother? So I was also at that meeting on Monday involving potential generation of hydroelectric through the water resources, and I'm happy to think that I'll have very limited work going forward on that. But otherwise, there's no report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Shear.
Mayor, could you please take over from here?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I haven't seen you at any Lafayette games.
Excuse me, I was there Saturday.
Oh, you were? You saw a good game. I didn't get there Saturday.
Brilliant comeback. Very, very nice. Yeah, I could give a full report on Lafayette's basketball
I'm
team.
sure you could. When they're winning. I would like to just say that we are in the process of working with, David Hopkins is in the process of working with the YMCA. Our intent is to open both pools every day this summer, but that is dependent upon getting lifeguards. So you can stay tuned for that. One of the things that will be done in the next couple of years is a community center in the West Ward, and I'll be forming a capital campaign committee for that. So if anyone on council knows anyone that would like to serve on that committee to raise at least 50% of the amount of money that we need for that, and a skateboard park. We're raising $500,000 for skateboard park and probably about $3 million towards a $6 million community center. Also, Mr. Hopkins, the candle is coming down on January 30th, I believe. That's the plan. All right, and today Lewis and I attended the Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce Economic Outlook, and we saw that the Community Spotlight Award went to the Crayola Experience in Easton. So only one award was given out. It was given out by them, so we're really happy. Mr. Pinnabone announced the $18,000 for Space Fest. If you remember, it was held at 12th Street last year. It was very, very well known and very well attended, and it was very educational. It's really our only educational festival that we have, except for Heritage Day. That has been scheduled for May 18th and 19th, just so you're aware. We have 5 recruits in the Fire Academy, so they should be coming out in the next 10 weeks. I think he said 10 weeks. I also want to read a letter that I got from the Pennsylvania Municipal League. It's somewhere. Oh, here it is. Appointing Mr. Pinnabone, Councilman Pinnabone, to the Legislative Committee. As a former president of the league, I can tell you that the Legislative Committee is a very busy committee, since most of the things we affect are legislative actions. And if you can help us get radar, I'd be very appreciative. But on behalf of the League of Board of Directors is Mr. Who's the letter from? Okay, it's from Doug Baker, the president. He wants to appoint you to the General Assembly Administration Legislative Committee for 23-24. You accept? 24-25. You do accept? Oh, do I say 23? 24-25. All right, and also want to mention that as part of that, Mr. Pinnabone, you were appointed to the Community Development and Infrastructure Committee for the league. For those of you that don't know in the audience, the Pennsylvania Municipal League is a very important league for us. It's all the municipalities. It's 103 municipalities now in the state of Pennsylvania. We do have some boroughs and we do have some townships. We're not just cities anymore, so it's no longer called the Pennsylvania League of Cities. It's called the Pennsylvania League of Municipalities. It's mostly, I would say 99% of the population in membership in that league have urban issues. There are townships like Falls Township has 92,000 population. I mean, they're basically a city right outside of Philadelphia. So we're glad that you're on that. And it's a very important committee. The lobbying days are very important. We have to get people out there to lobby to get us. We've been trying to fight for radar. You talk about making your streets safe, your city safe. The hardest thing right now is making the streets safe for people to walk and bike, because it's terrible. We have Dave Hopkins could tell you, we put speed monitors up on Lafayette Street, and we're clocking people going extremely fast. well over the speed limit. So moving on to the report of city administrator.
Two quick items. Number one, I think we had made this announcement last night, but the Director of Planning and Codes, Stephen Narowski's going to be moving on. He's taken a position at Moore Township as the township manager. And last night we obviously spent a considerable amount of time talking about the department and some few potential opportunities that could exist for managing the department. One of them is on the agenda tonight for approval, is the new job description. The second item, Dr. Ruggles, perhaps I didn't get a chance to call you today, but maybe after the meeting, myself, Crystal, and Ken can get together and just put a date on the calendar so we can decide when to meet. Best way to do it than rather just tracking everyone down, so we'll just do it right after with the meeting. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Campos. Under new business, let's move right on, Madam Clerk.
Under new business, okay. We have a resolution approving design work and new traffic signals by Panoni for $31,000.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions?
Can we change the, Burlington Center blinking light to a red light?
You'll never get it. You'll never get it.
And that's been there for a little older than me.
Doesn't slow anybody down.
No, that's,
Mr. Hopkins.
I think we're gonna try and look at a couple options there. That's a really dated intersection. And so I think if I recall correctly, one of the span wires is even attached to a telephone pole that we don't own. And I think one might even be attached to one of the corner buildings. I can't
It
remember,
is.
but I know it's really awkward. So I think we're gonna look at stop conditions, see if we can get a regular intersection in there and just see what options are available to us.
Thank you.
nobody stopped for that.
Excuse me? Berwick and Center. Center and Berwick. Motion second.
Wait, I'm sorry, who did that? Oh, okay. Okay, Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone,
Aye.
Mrs. Rose,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
Okay, bill number 1, to amend parking garage fees.
Motion.
Second.
Dr.
Or
Ruggles.
introduce.
This is just introduced. Dr. Ruggles.
Yeah, there are two things on this bill that I just had a question on. If we take a look at A1, parts lowercase a and lowercase b, it defines the time frame in which there's going to be a $1 and a $3 fee. It leaves out the month of April. So I'm not sure what we're gonna do in the month of April there.
Are you talking about A?
Goes to March and then picks up in May.
You said section A?
A1,
Okay.
lowercase a and lowercase b.
Yeah.
Exactly, I wasn't sure which one, where you wanted to put the month of April.
Well, April 15th, when tax day is.
No, that's obviously a typo. It should go to April 30th.
April.
Yeah. April 30th. We'll make, this is an introduction, so we can make the adjustment, for the next meeting.
Well, yeah.
And the other thing on that particular bill, while we're right there, on the same A2, lowercase b, there is a Y in there that should be a number. At least I read it as a Y, a lowercase y.
And that would be,
Either 9 or 8.
5.
Aye.
No, I
Five
know,
a.m.
but
to 5
the blank is when you're gonna start that. So I presume it's either gonna be 8 AM, 8:30, or 9, because you're setting a rate for government employees during their workday. I don't know when their workday begins.
what I like to do is, because that's obviously something that's been there for a while.
Okay. Well, I mean,
let me-
it's just introduced now, so, I mean, we can,
We can make,
whatever it needs to be.
but that's a good point, just because, let me go back, take a look at the minutes,
Mhm.
and see what the idea was. I'm not gonna say it was 5, 6, 7, or 8. I'll take a look at the minutes and
Okay.
make that adjustment.
I think it was intentional, because when they asked you, well, what time is it?
I'd like to just delete it. I don't know why government people get cheaper than the regular people. Government people usually are paid more than the lady that sells popcorn at Caramel Corn. She might get $10 an hour, and the person down the street that works for the government is making, maybe $40,000 or $50,000 a year. I didn't agree with it then, and I don't agree with it now. So I will not be voting for this. I just think that a rate specifically, all employees downtown, you want to set a rate for them, I'll gladly do that. but to distinguish between a government employee and a non-government employee, to me, is ridiculous.
Mayor.
Well, that's not, the existing ordinance, there's no attempt to change that provision right now. So if you wanted to change it, someone has to actually make
Well,
a
I would
motion.
do that when it's being voted on. I would.
Well,
vote
but then we'd have to, that's a major change.
We could submit it,
So you-
we could submit that at the next council.
It-
meeting.
it-
We-
but-
I would.
Okay.
But that would be a major change, so you couldn't, you'd have to wait another 2
Oh,
weeks to
okay, well.
prove it. So if you
I'll
were
just wait.
inclined, if you
I'll
were.
wait till
it-
the parking summit gives their recommendations, because that's one of the recommendations is an employee
Yeah.
parking pass.
Right, okay, 'cause whatever it is.
Leave this the way it is, we'll introduce a new ordinance as a separate item.
Yeah.
And I never got to tell my joke about when they'd ask, what's the time? You'd say, why? And you just keep saying why. It'd be like, who's on first? Because it says
Who is on
why, it
first?
says why AM.
Who is on first?
No one, he went to second.
Yeah. I could go on YouTube and figure it out.
Okay, moving on,
Okay,
Madam Clerk.
yes. Bill number 2, amending the 2023 budget.
We have to vote on the amending
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
parking garage fees.
Okay,
And is that introduced, Mayor?
It's just
It's introduced, it's just introduced, I'm sorry, you're right.
okay. Do it again. Bill number 2, amending the 2023 budget, healthcare fund closeout.
It's introduced.
Second.
It's just
It's
introduced.
introduced.
Oh, it's-
Okay, at this point in the meeting, we have public comment on any item concerning the city of Easton.
No,
We moved the,
They moved the
Oh,
clerk
I'm sorry.
position.
Yeah.
We only introduced it.
No, we haven't done anything, we moved it.
Oh, see, I don't have an old agenda.
the
To
job
D, we moved it to D.
the salary and wage
Okay.
resolution, was
We didn't
moved
do that
to
We
D.
moved that off out
You,
of,
council already approved.
I don't have approved the position.
Well, yeah, you already approved the position. and-
Right.
So we vote
No,
on
we
the
didn't
salary
approve
now.
We're gonna vote, we didn't approve of the we moved letter H under consent agenda to now.
Yeah.
Because you can't
Correct.
approve, you can't amend the salary and wage ordinance for a planning supervisor before you have a planning supervisor.
That's what I meant. I meant that the, item relating
right.
to the salary and wage resolution of that position
Okay.
was moved here.
So we're gonna vote on, we're gonna move the we're gonna discuss the, letter D under new business is gonna be the H that was under consent agenda.
Okay, and that's a resolution approving the salary and wage for codes and planning supervisor.
Right.
Motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded, seconded by Brown and introduced, motion by, Mr. Pinnabone. Discussion. We discussed it at length last night, so seeing no discussion, roll call.
Dr. Ruggles?
aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Eddinger?
aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
I don't have that, anything on my agenda, so I don't know what's next. Huh? No, H was on my agenda.
Yeah, we just moved that.
We don't have a,
We'll just make it a D.
Yeah. I have the same agenda you have.
I don't know what you're looking for.
I'm looking for the, anything else?
Public comment?
Yeah,
Not, well, we'll get to public comment. Anything else on that item?
None.
it's right here.
Okay. So then we need to vote on the, position, the salary and wage codes planning supervisor. You took that vote? I took it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, move on to public comment.
now we can go.
Please
Melody
spell your
Rogers.
first and last name and your address.
Melody, Rogers, Rogers, 710 West Berwick Street, Easton, PA.
Right up from that blinking light.
That keeps her up at night.
That's true.
2 doors away. So, Dave, I have 2 questions for you. One, for the Iron and Berwick Street, where there's an accident all the time, how can we get a 4-way stop there? I know it's impossible. I know we've talked about this a million times, but there are so many accidents there, at least once a week, sometimes more.
So PennDOT has a warrant analysis, which basically makes you go through a checklist of things, and they have criteria that we now have the capability of doing all of
absolutely needed. That is, sometimes there's 3 accidents there in a week. I've counted them. I go down and see who it is, and sometimes
Dave,
it's
can we
one.
pull their reports on them too, so that we have something substantial for PennDOT? Okay, okay.
And also for the Berwick and Center Street, there needs to be a crossing guard there as well, because whether the people are going through or yielding or whatever, those kids at school time cannot get through there. And I have been fighting to get, I've talked to the Easton School District, I've talked to Chief Scalzo about this to get a crossing guards there. There's one that needed at Packer and Berwick. There's one that's needed at Iron in Berwick. There's one that's needed at Center in Berwick, and then all the way down at Sites in Berwick. Because there's kids still coming up from St. John's.
Walkers.
Coming up as walkers. They need crossing guards. They can't get across the street. The kids that are coming up from St. John, the poor guy that's in St. in Berwick that has a little store there, he crosses these 3 kids every day so they don't get hit by a car because there's so much traffic. Then we're going to go up the street to Center in Berwick. The traffic is so bad there when the kids are going to school. I go out sometimes and cross the kids because they can't get across there. They're waiting and waiting and waiting. It's just like the speedway as it's going by. This is getting so ridiculous. Nobody wants to stop for these kids. A lot of them don't have parents that take them. Then we'll go down to Iron and Berwick, and then that's so dangerous down there because of the cars that are just going through. And even school buses. I lived down there for 5 years. I can't tell you, every year when the school would start, there's 3 buses that were with handicapped kids, that IU kids on them, that went right through the stop sign that I called and reported them. Because, oh my God, if those cars were coming up like they always do, they would have hit them and it would have been really a fatality. Those kids are not fastened into the seatbelts. So they need to get crossing guards. We need to work on this. We need to get all the help. I have been trying. I've talked to the superintendent for the school district. Then he retired. Haven't gotten any help with that. So we need to work on that as well as getting the 4-way stop sign at Iron and Berwick changed also to make it a 4-way stop. I think that's going to be a drastic thing to help.
It's a third-party contract. It's
Yes.
50-50.
Yeah. And that's what they told me, but they said they have to vote, they have to go through it and look at it, and they don't want to pay the money to do this. I said, this Easton gives half of it, I'm sure, pays for it, and the other half comes from somebody else, but they need to do
School
this.
district, school district.
Yeah.
Isn't it, or Dave, I don't know, is the school district's responsibility to identify, right?
Yes.
Not the city, it's the school district.
Or the school district, okay, well, we need to get this in place, because this is the most dangerous thing. I mean, I've worked on this since last year, I think it was April, I started working and sending information out. No help from anybody, and then Mr. Pipparata retired. And then I went again and started in September again. In August, I think I tried to call somebody, nobody answered. And I tried it when the kids went back to school, and they said, oh, well, we'll bring it up. And then Sue Bittinger said she took it to the school board, and haven't heard anything since.
Might want to go to the school board meeting or talk to Sue again
Yeah,
on the school board, because they're the ones that initiate it, and then they could come to Dave and discuss it.
But then they say that, well, we have to, maybe we'll get in place for next year. We need to do this now. These kids are taking
I don't disagree,
Last
but we
year-
have to start it at the schools, what I'm saying.
And
I'll
last
go
year
to
I
the
heard
meeting
there was a
with you.
kid that got hit by a car, but there was nothing made of it. He must not have got hurt badly, but it was just the idea that, you take your chance and step off the sidewalk and a car is going to hit you, because they do not stop. That is really bad there. So Berwick Street is a
Well, I can
mess.
assure you the city will pay our 50% for 3 additional crossing guards. We don't have a problem with that.
It's
Yeah.
not
Deals with safety.
typically where,
But we don't, as Mr. Pinbo said, we don't initiate it. And the reason why, very honestly, why we don't initiate is because the school district determines where they are, because they don't have them in the townships and and down in Lower Mount Bethel. So we're the only ones that need them because we're an urban center, and they initiate it. But you could say you have the support of me to put it in the budget for next year. That's not a problem.
Okay, I have also talked to Kyle Yanders, and one of the teachers were telling me that they do need one down there on Cole and Lincoln, I think it is too, because traffic, the cars keep going right on up there. They don't even stop. But
Up the hill?
Yeah. But I mean, it's just the idea that we need these people to be in place, and they're not doing it, and it's going to be a fatality sooner or later, because these kids, they don't pay attention. They're trying to get home, or they're trying to get to school or whatever. But it's just the idea, we have to watch out for them. We have to be their eyes and ears to help them.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the things I worry about. But also with the Iron and Berwick, that's a mess down there. Okay.
Right.
That's correct, yep.
I don't either.
I don't know how they select it, I just know they do. I don't know the process. It's the
Mr. Rogers,
Transportation
I'm sorry,
Department.
5 minutes are up.
Okay.
They do it there, so it's not central administration.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melody. Anyone else? Sal?
Good evening. My name is Sal Poyesi. I live at 2225 Hackett Avenue, Palmer Township. Mr. Mayor, we've been going through this BS for years on 13th and Elm. That alley is so narrow, it can't handle 53-foot trailers, a tractor, and a tow truck. I've had that tracks within 5 feet of my building. My truck, you guys blacktopped it a few years back. Do you remember we negotiated, blacktop it, I'll back it off. It was 10, 15 feet off the roadway. They still hit and ran my truck. Easton Police wouldn't even file hit and run charges on him. So I hate to use the word collusion or corrupt or anything, but something's got to happen, sir, to make it fair for everyone. He just came crying on my shoulders a couple months ago. He's losing business because he can't get trucks around that corner. I said, take your fence down, and I don't want to lose any of my land. His land, threefold since they've been dumping for 20 years back there. And I said something to the city years ago about the dumping. Who's regulating them, what they're dumping, and how much you're dumping? I just had another incident I called the city on. Truckloads, tandem loads of bananas, boxes and all got dumped over there. It wasn't until I had to call the EPA because the city wasn't going to do anything because it was Easton Auto Body. Sir, now I'm being harassed with my truck being on the corner there. It's licensed, it's insured. Is it inspected? No, sir. The asset got ripped off by Easton Auto Body, and I don't have the money to fix it. I don't know why I'm going to get fined $1,000 because I have a truck there. It's on private property. It isn't on city land. Can you tag it? It's on private property. Again, I'd like to have a resolution here, but I don't want to lose any of my property neither, like Davey don't want to lose any of his. But his property expanded by him dumping all these years. And again, the city did nothing. Nobody's regulating them on what they're dumping back there. So something's got to happen here, sir. I mean, I don't want to spend $1,000 or lose $1,000 because I'm getting cited because my vehicle is on my property and it's not inspected. It is licensed. It is insured. I can prove that.
Well, our ordinance allows you up to 2 unlicensed and unregistered and uninspected vehicles per property.
Okay, then why am I being cited?
I don't know.
Sir, I just called your office last week. I put a call into that Johnny somebody or another, and I forgot his name, I'm sorry. He didn't return my call for the week before. It wasn't until I called your office and I spoke to a gentleman who I guess put some fire under the guy's can, and he called me. And again, I want to resolve this problem. But now, if I don't move my truck, I'm going to get cited at $1,000.
I'll check on that.
Please, sir.
I mean,
please.
I wish we could. We have problems with cars being stored on property that when it gets to be 3 or more, but not. I thought we allowed up to 2.
Sir, I know we used to. You and I spoke about a year ago, and I'll ask Crystal if maybe Crystal can look into it for us with the codes department. They were, if you remember, they were ticketing cars that didn't have inspection stickers on their property on Milton Street, Milton and Lincoln.
Oh yeah, I
remember last year it was one car, and I went down there and they were ticketing. So I know growing up you were allowed to keep a car on your property, and as long as it wasn't on a public street. So
I'll check on that for you.
If we can look into it.
It is licensed, sir, and it isn't inspected.
And how many times have you cited? Once or?
Was I just had.
Couple of
I
times?
apologize. I didn't bring the paperwork.
No. That's, I'm
I'd be
just
glad
wondering,
to
like,
show
it's
you.
a couple of times or only once?
It's just starting
Just
again.
starting again,
Everything
okay.
died down. Mr. Panto did a great job years ago. We kept peace, all right? It wasn't until they came through with a tractor, a trailer, and a tow truck, which is over 100 feet, which is illegal. But again, nothing's being done because they're Easton Auto Body. Something's got to, and again, I'm just a small business, okay? I have an apartment, and I have my vehicles. So I don't want to pay $1,000 fine, sir, and I don't want to go to jail.
All right, I'll check on that.
Please, sir.
Lewis, remind me.
Thank you.
I have it marked down.
Mayor.
I'll check with the
Question for Sal. Sal, unrelated.
Pugliese.
Are you the one with the black truck and you paint words and things on it? That was
My graffiti?
since
Yes,
a
sir.
kid. We always wanted to know whose truck that was. You are brutal on a lot of politicians and judges. I never knew who it was. You are brutal. I love it. I laugh. I just never knew it was you. We always wondered who it was.
Sir, if you'd like to discuss that after this meeting, I don't want to bring it in.
I was just wondering if we always wondered who, growing up when we drive by on a school bus whose truck it was. Now, when you were talking, I'm thinking, oh my God, that was your truck. So
sir.
I'm fine with. I was just wondering. I never knew whose it was.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
He's not a fan of Sam Murray.
At all. At all. I know.
Anyone else like to address City Council? Artie? You can stay there, Artie.
Mr. Ardi, just a quick question. Where did you visit? Is in Israel? I'm just curious. Is that close to Gaza? Is that close? It's 20 miles. Okay. Were you able to look at, were you able to go to Gaza? Palestine?
Yeah.
Who's fighting in Gaza? But how come you will be able to visit in Israel and not in Gaza? They are sending rockets to Israel, but it's safe to go to Israel? Right, and it's safe to be there, right? Well, it's safe because the rockets only go so far. Okay. But they're getting better and longer rockets. Okay, yeah. But it's not safe to go to Gaza, right? They don't let me go to Gaza. Yeah, it's not safe there, yeah. They're asking people to help plant and harvest vegetables that are rotting on the vine, but right. I couldn't go, they wouldn't let me. Yeah, they wouldn't let you because it's dangerous there. Yeah. But it's safe to be in Israel, though.
Anyone else like to address City Council on public comment? On any item? Hearing none?
Move to adjourn. Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Yes. Mrs. Rose? Aye. Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Ms. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
The first dad is going to punish you.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Oh, Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, for sure.